You're sitting at home and your stomach is bubbling. No food in the fridge and your hunger is growing. You hop in your car and head straight to get drive-through. Murder with fries described as fast food. You better run, 'cause it's a poltergeist.
This film is Poltergeist, and it's an acquired taste. But it's quite possibly the most Troma a Troma film could be.
Well, that was anticlimactic.
If you're not familiar with the works of Troma, then this video will be jumping in at the deep end. Troma is a fiercely independent film studio, but their output is so much of a style that you could call it a genre.
When I tell you there's noise. What you have to do is, you don't go to him. You go to me. I say there's too much noise outside. If your people are making the noise, you've got to lock up the set. You've got to shut them up. That's your job. You don't go to Evan and say, is it okay? Because that's what schlock is all about. Schlock is accepting noise on your soundtrack. Now, we're going to have plenty of noise on the soundtrack, and we're going to accept plenty of dogs barking. But the PA's yapping and slamming doors, we don't have to accept.
It is impossible to talk about Troma without talking about Lloyd Kaufman, who isn't the only person behind the company, but is very much the face of Troma. The low-budget shock Mickey Mouse, if you will.
The industry has become so consolidated, and the laws that used to protect the public against monopoly have been done away with. They've been canceled. So all the consent decree of 1948 that forbade a Viacom from owning theaters, that's gone. The studios can own theaters now. All of these little things that helped us out in the 70s and 80s, they're gone. And
so it's kind of like going back to where it was like in the 30s, 40s, kind of, right? Like,
yeah, except it's bigger and fewer artists. It's big. It's certainly more business.
Lloyd Kaufman is a former Yale student who got into filmmaking while sharing accommodation with a student filmmaker. He made his first movie on a silent 16mm camera, The Girl Who Returned. I haven't been able to find a copy of this film online, but by all accounts of the people who have seen it, including Kaufman himself, it's incredibly boring. But in spite of that, Kaufman noticed that almost no one asked for their money back, and a business model was formed.
I don't know what happened.
Hey there, Lefty. I'll be back in You got a friend for you. All right. How you doing? Well,
For a short while in the early 70s, Lloyd pursued a legitimate filmmaking career. This is his cameo in Rocky, in which he is also credited as a pre-production supervisor. And Troma is credited on the inexplicably overpraised bore fest My Dinner with Andre for additional production services. But the first real Troma film? That was Squeeze Play.
Boom, 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 ram-a-lam, ding-dong, ram-a-lam, ding-dong, boom, boom, boom.
It's a very simple sex comedy in the vein of something like the Bill Murray film Meatballs. It's not a particularly memorable movie, nor was it well reviewed. But it made a profit, and titty comedies became Troma's niche. The company's first breakout success was 1984's Toxic Avenger. Not a titty film, though it does have its fair share of naked breasts. It's somewhere in between a superhero movie and a horror film, but it has the gross-out comedy and the genre fan pleasing set pieces that will become the company's calling card.
Tell all your congressmen friends that if they meddle with the National Endowment for the Arts, they'll have me, Kabuki Man, to deal with.
In amongst the ever-increasing shock comedies, Troma have released other people's movies too, including the Ray Mahoney film Baconhead, which I've done a whole video dedicated to, Cannibal the Musical, which was made by Trey Parker and Matt Stone of South Park fame, and even the Brian De Palma film Hi Mom got a Troma release, even though it has been retitled Blue Manhattan.
We have to get off the air now. Do you have anything you might just like to say in summary?
Well, I would like to say something, if you don't mind.
No, of course not.
I'd like to say hello to my mother, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Thank you. Hi, Ma.
Look at that title card. It looks like it's been made on a ZX Spectrum. And if you hold on a moment, you can see that it's there to cover the real title of the film, Hi Mom.
Tromaville. We don't even care if it's in focus.
If in watching these films you find yourself saying, why would anybody watch this? Then you may never understand the joy that these films can bring. I don't personally believe in guilty pleasures. That's just films you enjoy while acknowledging their flaws. And there's no such thing as so bad it's good. If you enjoyed it, then it is good. The films Troma have produced themselves are so purposefully bad taste that there's almost certainly something in there to offend everyone.
Now, Augie, this here is our new cook. This here is Herz.
It's not hummus. It's hummus. Like the dip. Hummus. I swear sometimes I get so angry I just want to explode.
This hijab-wearing character in Poltergeist is a bit too far for me, and Citizen Toxic, the fourth Toxic Avenger movie, opens with a shooting in a school for the mentally disabled.
Mark, the fucking toys! I'm sick and tired of that drooling wine. Now why is it that when I shit my pants, it's a fucking social faux pas? But when some toy shits his pants, a good-looking nurse wipes his ass for him, huh?
This is clearly included because it crosses the line, but there's no point getting offended by this material because then you'd have to get offended by everything. You can't just point to a single thing in a Troma film and say, that is too much, it has to go, without pointing to everything else. If there's a line of decency, then Troma is so far over it that I doubt they know it existed.
Is there a line? Is there a limit to, are there boundaries?
I think there are boundaries, sure. I think if the boundary has to be if it's something you sincerely believe in, something that means something to you. There's a movie called and everybody loves it, the Serbian film.
Everybody loves the Serbian film.
I don't see that that's worthwhile. I don't see anything to it other than just gore.
I think Troma films are enjoyed by people who really understand movie making, in the same way that freeform jazz is for people who understand music. It's not always pleasant to listen to, but it can be interesting. What I like about Troma is there's no gatekeeping. You don't need money or even talent to make a film. Lloyd Kaufman has written several books about his filmmaking process, and the general tenet across the ones that I've read is stop waiting for everything to be perfect and get off your arse and make a film.
And in my book, Sell Your Own Damn Movie, I proposed that file sharing and things like that were great for the independent artists because we want people to see our work, right? We do this for our fans. We do it because we have something to say. So it's really quite fascinating the way it goes, and you've got an inspiring upward story, and mine is just kind of bitter old man. But they do sell. I mean, the kids want to learn how to do it, and they have to learn that you just don't go and there's a magical movie bank and you get the money.
But the greatest thing Troma makes is their behind-the-scenes documentaries. These warts and all feature-length presentations show low-budget filmmaking at its grimiest and should be essential viewing for every filmmaker. I've honestly watched them more times than any of their movies. And this is what I learnt from the Troma method.
Everybody ready? And action car.
On the set of Toxic Avenger 4, a particularly irritating member of the crew who led a mass exodus of the production was later rehired after he returned to set with his tail between his legs. He was then knocked off a ladder while taking photographs of a stunt because he didn't listen to where he was told to stand.
Did you see me fall off the 12-foot fucking ladder?
No. The lessons here clearly are, if you can avoid hiring dicks, do so. If people prove themselves to be dicks, fire them. If dicks walk out, don't rehire them. And safety is very important. No movie is good enough to warrant risking someone's life, particularly a Troma movie.
Can I get your view on how that stunt went?
The 3 rules of production, Troma rules of production, were not posted. They're not posted here because we moved back to this location. And I think that is the primary reason why this stunt, while it looked very good on camera, came very close to killing people.
Troma has 3 rules of production, which is placed on the wall of every location they shoot on. It reads: Number 1, safety to humans. Number 2, safety to people's property. And then, in much smaller font, Number 3, make a good movie. It's good to get your priorities straight.
But it's my opinion that had those signs been up, the signs were up today like they should have been, I think everybody would have had it on their mind and would have been a little more cooperative about being anywhere near it. So luckily, nothing happened.
Lloyd Kaufman likes to surround himself with fans rather than filmmakers.
I used to work in a video store in Baltimore.
And then I happened to cross the Troma webpage, which I've been a big fan of for many, many years.
I drove 7 hours to get here from Connecticut. I got here, they started me working.
I'll go back to selling shoes when the movie's over.
This means a lot of cheap, or more likely for Troma, free labour.
How you enjoying your job?
I'm ready to ride.
I think I didn't know what I was getting into.
Lack of sleep, lack of food.
18-hour days, 7 days a week. Sleeping on the floor with 50 people. Not showering.
No one talked to you about the way Troma was before you came to work on a set?
No, they manipulated me.
Well, you saying you don't like living in a rundown McDonald's in the middle of the ghetto?
With a hose for a shower.
With a hose for a shower.
A potty for a pooper and no sink.
Think you'll ever be back for another movie?
This battle is not for me.
It leads him to be surrounded with people who are learning on the job and unprepared for just how tiring production can be. This only serves to slow the shooting down, and the exhaustion causes tempers to fray.
You can talk all you want, you can meet all you want, Caleb can be his cocktail party nice guy, but you've got to get it on tape. You've got to get it on tape. I've said it for weeks. Brendan said it nicely. There's no other way to do it. And I don't want to even be slightly diplomatic. I wouldn't blame you if you walked out. I wouldn't blame you one bit if you walked out. I would, but there's no other way. I don't care. I'd rather you did than not have this again. You film it and see it, and it better be good.
Personally, I think I would have walked out after being spoken to like that. I can fully understand the director being pissed if work hasn't been done, but Lloyd changes his mind and adds things all the time. At one point in the production of Poultrygeist, the crew were up at 4 a.m, having not eaten since their evening meal, shooting a dance sequence that wasn't even in the script.
No, you're asking us to eat cold pizza and work for 3 more hours. Right. We haven't eaten since 8. You know what time it is? 4.
Here's the choice. We can either wrap and then or we can bring in try to get hot food here, but it's not going to be instant because they have to make the hot food.
That, yeah.
So we can keep working and then the hot food will come.
And when it comes, we stop and eat the hot food and then we finish up.
Or we can just wrap.
Many directors get so blindsided by making the movie they want to make that they forget the people they're working with are human. And as a boss, you have a duty of care. If you can't pay your crew, the least you can do is treat them kindly.
What's going on here?
We got one of our lead actresses looks like she wants to kill herself between takes.
And we're a little worried about her. Has Lloyd talked to her yet?
Lloyd doesn't notice. All Lloyd sees is 10 pair of tits around him right now.
I'd be worried if a sex scene was anything other than awkward to film. But while shooting a sex scene which also happened to be a musical sequence, Lloyd asks one of his actors to fake an orgasm. Which she does, but every time the camera stops rolling she looks like she wants to die. This is why on film sets these days you have the fairly new role of intimacy coordinator. Everything you're expected to do, at least with regards to nudity, should be clear to the actor before filming. You can't just say to an actor out of the blue, "Go on, flop a tit out in this scene," no matter how much that would improve the movie.
Why did we do the movie? We did it in rehearsals. We did it. We rehearsed it. We auditioned it. Did somebody work on you? Did somebody like don't do it?
No, not at all. I didn't plan on not doing it. I swear to God. Just when I got here, this was it.
In Lloyd Kaufman's books, he says to film any nude scenes early on in the shooting, just so the performers don't get shy and chicken out. Actors know that if you shoot for 3 weeks and then they refuse to undress, they're less likely to be replaced because you'd have to reshoot all that footage. Whereas if they refuse on the first day, recasting is no issue. On Citizen Toxie, they didn't push the nudity to the beginning of the shoot. As a result, the actor playing Toxie's girlfriend, Sarah, decided to stay covered up in that scene. She wasn't fired, but more nudity was written into the script to make up for what the production considered that scene lacked.
Action. There's a fucking mark.
Right there, Joe. Just stay in the wind. Rotate.
Stay on your fucking mark. Stay on your mark, damn it.
There is a, shall we say, distinct acting style in a Troma film, which I used to think was the downside of working with amateurs. But this guy, who's probably never been in front of a camera before, has not been shown what to do. It's a messy effect, and their budget probably means they can only do it once. It would have taken 30 seconds for someone to stand in the spot where he's standing and show him how to turn. Instead, they're telling him why the camera is rolling while he's trying to act. Is there any wonder it didn't look good? And yes, it did end up in the finished film. This is not to say that there's anything wrong with being an amateur, it just means that you're not getting paid. And having worked with both myself, I would rather have a keen amateur than a bored professional on the crew, at least when it comes to anything that's not health and safety related. The gun armourer on Toxic Avenger 4 is the most frustrating person to watch, as it's an important job to do safely, so the production has paid for someone who knows what they're doing. Only his guns don't work. The damn things keep jamming. And he has the nerve to say that he won't charge the production for the time he spent fixing them. They're his guns! Who's going to pay for the time that they've lost?
Steve, ready, Rick! And action! Cut!
The schedule is a running concern on every film, but when you have no money, it is a pressing concern. What always ends up happening is you spend far too much time shooting scenes which are eventually cut, and not enough time working on your big climax.
I say, watch the thing. It's a scene featuring zombies reaching, and they all have these hands that are white as snow.
Every fucking day we tell the makeup people, make sure to fuck up their hair, and the undersides of their arms and the backs of their necks. And I understand, if we're in a big hurry, then maybe if everyone's not done, there's a reason. But these people have been here since 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
So the thing we just did is going to look like a student movie. But I'm not reshooting it because we don't have enough film.
With the exception of any scenes featuring nudity, Lloyd Kaufman likes to shoot in order, which is a crazy practice on a budget so low. It makes far more practical sense to shoot everything, say in the kitchen one day, than moving on to the dining area for the next, instead of moving back and forth between the two, re-rigging lights that could have just stayed where they were the whole time. But shooting in order means blood effects and the degrading of costumes remains more consistent. Not that I think that really matters in a Troma film.
Oh, God, Wendy, that is just sick. Having sex with a corpse?
Having sex with a corpse. Why? How's that a corpse?
He thought she was dead.
Remember the scene
maybe with a dead person? Corpse is different from a dead person. A corpse just lays there, it does nothing. A dead person can walk.
He's a very stupid guy. I think it's a funny line.
The time for debate is not on the set of a low-budget movie when pushed for time.
That she does not want to do the penis monster.
Why not?
She thinks it's too gross.
What's the solution then
The
that you
solution
guys came
is
up
to
with?
have it happen to Jason instead of me.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It comes out, it's still going to leak green vaginal fluids, of course.
Okay.
And then nothing happens until Arby comes in and says, "Oh my God, get off my girlfriend." And he grabs it and he says, "Get off my girlfriend. How can I get you off?" I think it'll be funnier, and it'll still be in bad taste, but it won't be just misogynistic, which we don't want.
Time is a luxury, and it is the first thing to go when things go wrong, so best make hay while the sun shines. And if there's one thing I really like about Troma, is they don't wait until they're ready before they go. They want to make a movie, so they get up and make a movie. If they haven't got what they need, then they go with what they've got. All creative projects snowball. No one wants to help someone who doesn't know what they're doing, but everyone wants to be a part of a success. If you just start, it will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and sometimes a little too big to keep control of. You don't need money, you need creativity. I've been trying to make a feature film for some time. I've written several scripts, some of which have had some interest. But the problem is always money. It's really hard to get this snowball started. So, inspired by Troma, I've decided to make a cartoon. I know the principles of animation, but I don't really know how to animate. But that never stopped Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and I can draw better than either of them could. The best thing is I don't need any more than a pad of paper, and I've got characters and a set. The film's only going to be 5 minutes long, and it's going to be a bit rough around the edges. But this is me going with what I've got, purely because I want to make a movie. And if it works, I'll make more. It's not currently finished, but it will be soon, and you'll be the first people I show. If you would like to support my channel and my filmmaking efforts, you can send me a one-time donation at Ko-Fi. There's a link in the description if you'd like it. If you haven't got the money to spare, don't sweat it, I've been there. Go do something creative. I'm Scott Kingsnorth, and I'm making a movie.